Greetings YouTube, Captain Machine here, back for another video on to day 5 of the RPGaDay event. We're in the woods again, it's still raining. I'm still wearing the same clothes as last time. And today's prompt is ancient. Now I wanted to use this opportunity to talk about ancient ruins and archaeology to some degree, because I feel that Dungeons & Dragons especially, but tangentially games set into a distant far future of ridiculousness like Warhammer 40,000 or Numenera, for example, do generate a unique opportunity that D&D replicates. Because in Dungeons & Dragons the passage of time is glacial, which makes no sense, because once you've got a race like gnomes in the mix, where the modern iteration of gnomes are basically mechanical geniuses, they should have encountered an industrial revolution ages ago, much like how the industrial revolution affects and occurs in the Discworld novels. But in the traditional Dungeons & Dragons game, or the derivative thereof, no. I mean, you'll have like what is equivalent to the Roman Empire like thousands of years in the past, and then that civilization rose and fall, and then monsters come and go and so on and so forth, and then everyone's still stuck in this like pseudo medieval time period, which doesn't make a lick of sense when you compare it to actual world history. But it does mean that you get to be really fun and clever with ancient ruins and archaeology, because you get to tell the story of your world through history. Like say for example, you've got your own little world set up, and there's like a legend that's relative to the plot. Like maybe like there's a old dead king, like Fargrim the Fireblade, and how he had a magical axe that could slay any demon. Like, and if maybe the axe becomes a plot point, or maybe just encountering the spirit of Fargrim is the deal. Have the players encounter like murals or ancient statues of this figure. Maybe make it mysterious or interesting. Maybe they're spending the same a chunk of time in this roughly the same location. So this is the region of the world that Fargrim influenced. So you're going to keep bumping into examples of his appearance. Not every statue is a god. I think that's a bit of a lazy hand-holding maneuver where, oh, you encounter some statues and it's Helm, or it's... I'm trying to think of another god outside of a different campaign, so I'm struggling right now. I don't know why, but I am. I'm on the spot. I'm improving. Whoa. So, that was cringe. Oh my god, I'm sorry. Yeah. Like, use these ruins to tell a story. Make it interesting. Like I was recently finished running a... Oh, Gabriel, rather than climb across that, how about we go to this elf bridge that we found? You gotta come look at this, by the way. This is real world ancient archaeology BS fantasy stuff. Somebody, and I always say the elves did it, somebody built a bridge out of sticks. That's amazing. The little boy's over there just trying to cross on a fallen tree trunk, sorry. It might be a branch actually, given the size of it, but yeah. So yeah, I ran a Hellfrost game. In my opinion, Hellfrost is what I call a Dark Ages fantasy setting. Everyone looks at it and goes, oh, it's all Viking themed, but it kind of is and kind of isn't, because the further north you get, yeah, the more Saxons and Finnars you bump into, which makes it a very Viking game. But the further south you go, it's more like the Angles and the Franks, and it becomes less about Vikings and more about the concept of the Dark Ages, because to everyone in that world, the Blizzard War happened 150 years ago, and everything before that is the before times, and you keep bumping into examples of ancient ruins and statues and castles and tombs and all sorts that predate the Blizzard War, so they make no reference to it and not designed for it in mind. And it lets you expand out ideas. Like, for example, I used it to tell the story about a ancient lord who basically decided to build his castle on the tallest hill in the land, which turned out to be a cairn for elves. And elf spirits didn't take kindly to that intrusion, so they did something about it in much the same way that any old evil undead would do so. And that pseudo plot line spiderwebbed out across the entire part of that campaign, but that's just another example. Bear in mind that if you are, for example, going to have your party encounter what is the fantasy equivalent of Greek architecture with broken columns and faded tiled floors, like for a medieval person in the real world compared to real medieval person compared to a fantasy version, the difference is, say, like 500 years compared to thousands of years, because time in Dungeons & Dragons moves so much slower, progression of civilization moves so much slower. Depending on the campaign setting, the ruins you bump into could be of a roughly equal technological level to where the characters are now. Like, they recognize the archaeology in terms of like what it's designed to do, what it's trying to do, what it symbols, what it represents. Whereas truly ancient structures, like ridiculously old structures, would be rarer, because of the passage of time is so glacial. So I suppose with my rambling nonsense, I'm going to try and sum it up now. Use ancient tombs and archaeology and ruins and the like to tell a story about your world in terms of its history, so the players can learn something about your setting, whether it be an official setting like Faerun, or it's one you wrote yourself. Maybe it's a campaign setting you devised and there's a segment of the history which is ill understood or not remembered but is relevant to the plot. Make that part of the archaeology they bump into, and bear in mind the glacial speed that everything moves at in terms of Dungeons and Dragons. Think about it like Dune or Asimov or Fading Suns, Numenera, Warhammer 40,000. These settings that are so ridiculously far in the future that when they encounter ruins of ancient civilizations, they're thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years old, and it doesn't make a lick of sense to them. You can do that too, but they're going to be much rarer in a D&D world compared to what I've just described. But yeah, don't be afraid to have some fun with it. See you later, guys. Goodbye.